time, but instantly. Thousands of games, animations, websites, entire worlds just stopped working. No warning, no final screen, no goodbye. You'd click and nothing would happen. Or worse, you'd see one sentence, Flash is no longer supported. And just like that, years of memories were gone. But here's what most people didn't realize: this wasn't just a shutdown. This wasn't one game dying. This wasn't one company pulling the plug. This was the death of an entire version of the internet. And the craziest part, millions of people didn't even realize it was happening. This is the story of the day the internet lost everything. To understand how something this big could disappear, you have to go back to what the internet used to feel like. Before apps, before algorithms, before everything became clean, fast, and controlled. There was a time when the internet felt unpredictable, messy, creative, almost alive. And at the center of that world was something called Flash. Flash wasn't a game, it wasn't a website, it was a tool, a simple piece of software that let anyone create anything. And that changed everything. Because for the first time, you didn't need permission to exist online. No company, no funding, no approval, just an idea and you were in. You could build a game, an animation, a weird little world and upload it instantly, and people did. They built everything. Games that made no sense but were impossible to stop playing. Games that were broken but somehow perfect. Games you'd stumble across by accident and never forget. Websites like Newgrounds, Miniclip, Armor Games became home to millions of these creations. And for an entire generation, this was the internet. You'd come home from school, turn on the family computer, and disappear into it for hours. No downloads, no installs, just click and you're in. A racing game, a platformer, something completely random, and then another, and another, and another. Because there was always something new, always something different. It felt endless. And that's what made it special. This wasn't controlled, it was chaos. And that chaos created some of the most addictive experiences the internet has ever seen. But then something started to change. Not suddenly, obviously, slowly, the internet began to grow up. Smartphones took over, apps replaced websites. Everything became faster, cleaner, simpler. And suddenly, the way people used the internet was completely different. You weren't sitting at a computer anymore. You were scrolling, tapping, moving on. Flash didn't belong in that world. It wasn't built for phones. It wasn't built for speed. It was built for exploration. And that difference started to matter. Then came the real problem. Flash didn't just become outdated, it became a liability. Security risks, crashes, vulnerabilities. Big companies started backing away. Apple refused to support it, browsers began blocking it, and slowly the entire foundation of that world started to crack. But even then, people didn't think it would actually end. Because how do you even imagine something that big just disappearing? It had been there for years. It felt permanent, like it was part of the internet itself. But it wasn't. In 2017, everything changed. Adobe, the company behind Flash, made an announcement. Flash was shutting down, not immediately, but soon. A deadline was set, December 31st, 2020. After that, Flash would be gone. No updates, no support, no future. And just like that, a countdown began. But even then, it didn't feel real because everything still worked. The games were still there, still playable, still alive. So people ignored it. They assumed something that big wouldn't actually disappear. But time kept moving, and the deadline got closer. Developers tried to react. Some games were saved, rebuilt, ported over, but most weren't because the truth was simple and brutal. Um, there were too many small creators, too many forgotten projects, too many games that only existed in that one format, and no one was coming to save them. Then finally, the day arrived, December 31st, 2020, and in a single moment, it ended. Flash didn't slowly fade away, it didn't gradually shut down, it was cut off instantly. Millions of games didn't just stop working, they were erased. You'd click and nothing would load. No sound, no movement, just silence. An entire part of the internet switched off all at once, overnight. And here's the part that still doesn't make sense. Most people didn't even notice because by 2020, the world had already moved on. Mobile games, social media, streaming, Flash didn't fit anymore. But for the people who grew up with it, this wasn't small. This was everything. This was childhood. Coming home from school and going straight to the computer, playing the same game again and again, trying to beat your score, finding something random and getting completely hooked. That feeling of discovering something new every single time you logged in, gone, not replaced, gone. And unlike other shutdowns, there wasn't one place to remember it because wasn't one game, it was thousands scattered across the internet, lost all at once. Some people tried to save it. Projects like Flashpoint worked to archive as much as possible. Thousands of games preserved. But even that is only a fraction because most of it was never saved, never backed up. It just existed for a moment in time and then disappeared forever. And that's what makes this different because when most things end, you can go back, replay them, revisit them. But this, you can't. For many of those games, they don't exist anymore. Not hidden, not stored somewhere, gone. And that's why this matters. Because this wasn't just the end of Flash, it was the end of something bigger. An internet where anyone could create something and share it instantly, where weird ideas could explode out of nowhere, where small creators could build something that millions of people would play without permission, without money, without limits. That version of the internet is gone, replaced by something bigger, more advanced, more controlled, but also less human. And that's why, even years later, people still feel it. Not just the games, but the feeling. Because for an entire generation, Flash wasn't just part of the internet, it was the internet. And one day, without most people even noticing, it all disappeared.